Brent, you'll be ready. All right, we're getting some people join us. It's awesome. Awesome.
Looking good.
Look at that number climbing on those participants. That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. Good deal. Well, as people are joining us, welcome everybody. I'm Sylvia Peace, Greenville Fire Rescue in Texas, and the creator of that fire Facebook FLSC page several years ago. And thanks to COVID, we've gone from 400 people to 2,200 in a year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been such a great resource for all of us, I know. And just keeping us all together and being able to talk with each other and share ideas. It's been a great resource. So I'm glad it was there for us to share and join and get some good ideas out there on how to work with all kinds of things COVID related. So yeah, look at that. We're up to 41, 42. And just so everybody knows, we're giving Ed a few minutes to get the Facebook live stream going so that we can have that as well. Oh, awesome. Live on Facebook now. So good deal. There's see Bob there. Hey, Bob. We'll just give you just a few more seconds to get everybody let in and then we'll get going. I'm excited to hear about all the stuff Brent's got going on. And all right. Good deal. So it's a minute after 12. We'll go ahead and get started. And I'm going to throw the Facebook FLSE page link is going to be in the chat. So if anybody has anything, or if anybody wants to join the Facebook group, we'd love to have you there. So we're also going to, if anybody has any questions, you can throw them in the chat, also in the Facebook Live group. You can add them there. We're going to try to get most of them at the end just so that we can save time. And then also, if you have questions later on, I'm sure Brent will pop over there and answer any questions that haven't been answered yet. So with all that being said, welcome everybody. And I'm going to turn it over to Brent and let him introduce himself and we'll get this party started. So go on with your bad self, Brent.
Perfect. Thank you, Sylvia. I want to thank you, first of all, for offering to set this up. I appreciate it. And Ed, obviously the man behind the curtain back there making all the magic happen. So this is great.
Right.
Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to just introduce myself just a little bit. Brent Faulkner. I've been in the fire service for 24 years now. I am a battalion chief in Southern California. And I'm a little bit different maybe than a lot of people in this group. I've never worked in the fire prevention side of the house. And I think that makes a little bit of a distinction, a little interesting as well, because I've been operations my whole career. And I really got into community risk reduction probably about 8 years ago. And it's Randy Brookman's fault. He became the fire chief of the department that I work for. And he came in with all kinds of ideas that I'd never heard of. One of them was accreditation. Another one was community risk reduction. So, obviously I'd start looking into that and seeing what it is. And community risk reduction, I found very fascinating because, as a firefighter every day, we respond to medical aid calls, we respond to fire calls, and unfortunately we see some horrible things. And if I got to a point in my career where it was like, I'd really like to start preventing as many of these as we can. We can't prevent all of them. And through education, obviously, we have that ability. About, 6, 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to go work for one of the DHS terrorism fusion centers. Anaheim basically loaned me out to them for a little while. And while I was there, my main job was educating the business community and the faith-based communities in the schools on how they can lessen the likelihood of having, either active shooter events, terrorist events, earthquakes, natural disasters, all those types of things. And that really opened up my eyes to, people typically, they want to do the right thing for either their businesses, their families, whatever it may be. They just don't know oftentimes how they should go about doing that. So that was one of the things that really spurred my interest in community risk reduction. Another one, unfortunately, is very personal to me. My son, when he was just before he was 4 years old, we had a near drowning with him. And so I have a personal relationship with something tragic that happened. Had to do CPR on my own child, and I don't wish that on anyone. So I come with that type of a background and wanting to help other people so that they don't have to go through the same types of things that either I've had to go through or I've had to see other people go through. So really, that was the impetus of creating virtual community risk reduction. As we know, Vision 2020 does an excellent job of putting information out there and really encouraging us to do a good job. And one of the things they really encourage us to do is go out and knock on doors and do home safety assessments and those types of things. And those are vitally important. But the main problem that I see out there is that no one, no matter where you are in the United States or the world, no one has the resources to be able to do that in a timely manner. Not one of us have the resources to be able to knock on every single door in a single year, or in 5 years, or in 10 years, and go in and do those types of assessments. So that was the impetus to starting virtual community risk reduction. So everything that I do is based around that, either home safety or business safety in-person assessment, but we basically take that to the virtual platform. And this last year, we've obviously seen how quickly our jobs can change. It was a year ago, it was no big deal for us to walk into somebody's house and install a smoke alarm, or to talk to them about, not utilizing, electric cords or grab handles in the shower, or whatever it might be. But for the last year, most of our departments, we haven't been allowed to do that. That's something that is completely off the table. So it really took our CRR efforts the direction that we had been going, and really turned them on their heads. And like you talked about, the surge that you've had just with your group, that's incredible. 4 times the amount of people just in 1 year, and it's out of necessity. People were scrambling for anything and everything that they could to be able to do that. So really, that's the background of my company. And I brought Will Brocious on right at the very beginning of COVID. So Will Brocious from South Carolina. If you guys don't know him, he is the most energetic and happiest guy in the world, and just does a great job. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just jump right in, and we can kind of walk through kind of the different services that we provide, and then we can do, unless you have any questions for me right now, Sylvia.
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay, so give me a second. We'll share the screen. All right, is that up, Sylvia?
Yes, it's up.
Okay, there we go. So like I talked about, one of the services that we offer is a virtual community risk reduction survey, basically, or home safety assessments. This is an example from Springdale, Arkansas, of what they utilize. And basically what this is this is provided via link, and it gets out to the community in lots of different ways. It can obviously a link on their homepage. They put out on Facebook, Twitter, all the different social media platforms to be able to get this out to their community. They can utilize the school system, which is the absolute best way to do that, because we have a captive audience there. Hopefully we can make this a homework assignment so that we're bridging the gap between what they receive in school and what they're receiving at home, so that the parents can actually see it. And we can collect a lot of good data. So I'm just going to walk through, because that's the easiest way to do it. As you can see, this is built directly around them. It's their logo, it's their name, all that type of stuff. So it comes from the fire department, and the fire department themselves pick exactly what they want. So the first thing that the person sees when they log in is they see a map of their community, and they just simply need to pick where they live. The reason why we do this is because we want to get a geographic area of where that person lives, and they can also give us their address. Now, we know that a lot of people, they're kind of leery about government, so they don't want to give their address. So we do not require the address function, but that's why we simply want them to pick one area. So for Springdale, Arkansas, what they decided to do is they use their wards for their council districts. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that's a good idea shortly, but I would simply pick which ward I'm in. If I want to have it in English, Spanish, or they have a very large Marshallese population, so we've mailed one in Marshallese as well. I'm going to say I don't want to give you my address, and that's fine. So just like if the fire chief sends crews out to the house, they're going to have detailed questions that they want them to ask to the homeowner. And these are the same exact questions that we ask in a virtual community risk reduction assessment. So as just some examples, does your home have a working smoke alarm? They can say yes or no. If your home has any gas appliances or fireplace, does your home have at least one working CO detector? We'll say that that's not applicable. Do you have an escape plan if there were an emergency such as a fire in your home? Say, yes, I do. Can all occupants get out of your home without assistance in emergency? I'll say no, because my mother lives with me and she's bedridden, she's unable to. Do you have a meeting place outside your residence? We'll say yes. Do you have working fire sprinklers? So I'm just going to blast through this real quick because these questions can be whatever you want them to be. Okay, so the department is the one that gives me the questions that they want to ask in their home, and typically those are the questions they already are asking when they do an in-person home safety assessment. This was a good one, I thought. Do you follow us on social media? They were trying to get their numbers up as far as the people following them on social media. So as a homeowner, when I get done with this safety assessment, this is the next thing that pops up. So if I were physically in your house, or you have one of your crew members physically in your house, and you responded to those questions, I'm obviously going to take the time to answer the questions or to give you safety information. And that's the exact same thing that we do here. So red, yellow, green, depending on how they answer the question. So as you can see, that smoke alarm question was the very first one that we asked. You click on it, and now it opens up into the teaching moment. So it gives you the opportunity to teach them whatever you want. And this is the verbiage that comes from the fire department. So if you want to talk about specifics that you've had X amount of fires in the area that unfortunately turned into fatalities, you can talk about that. If you want to use the US Fire Administration numbers, you can talk about that. If you have a video that you want to share, that's your fire chief, your fire marshal, or whoever speaking about the importance of smoke alarms, we would put that video here. Obviously, Vision 2020 has provided some excellent videos for us already. This happens to be the smoke alarm one. Show you how that works.
Did you know that most home fires that kill people happen at night when people are sleeping? Smoke from a fire won't wake you up, but smoke alarms can wake you if they're working.
So obviously, I'll pause it right there. We've all seen that video, hopefully, and hopefully we're sharing it with our community. But that's just an example of how easy it is to be able to teach the people that are in our community regarding smoke alarms. And we would do the same thing. It would be a different video if you wanted to put a different video in there. Obviously, I love the Vision 2020 ones. They've already got them translated into multiple languages. So if we're doing a assessment that has multiple languages to it, they automatically get the Spanish version. They obviously get whatever other version out there, sign language it might be. So we go down and we can link to all kinds of other things. So that second question was regarding escape plans. Okay. So again, we have the Vision 2021 here. If you guys have a good escape plan builder link that goes off of your website, we would simply link directly to your website off of this report here. So we would provide just basically a link right here that would take them straight to your website. If you wanted to teach them a little bit about fire sprinklers, this is the NFPA's Fire Sprinkler Initiative, side-by-side burn. Again, if you guys do a side-by-side burn video in your community, that would be the video that we would put here. So it's totally flexible. Think about a virtual CRR as the platform for you guys to get your information out to your community, and that can be whatever you want it to be. This happens to be a home safety version, but there's all different types, and I'll show you a couple different examples here shortly. On the back end, so as you can obviously see, you're teaching your community what you would have already been teaching them in their home. And like I talked about, we don't have the resources to be able to go to every single home in our jurisdiction, or every single business, sometimes once a year as well. So we're not going to reach everyone with a virtual community risk reduction assessment. We know that. Okay, some people don't have internet, some people don't have computers or cell phones. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to hit that huge population of the community that can pretty much take care of themselves. They just need the information to be able to do it. They might have the resources, they have the interest, they just need the knowledge directly from you guys. And oftentimes when we're looking at our community risk reduction efforts that we're currently doing, Obviously, we want to be very specific and we want to focus directly on certain groups. A lot of those groups are going to be the elderly. That's why we'll go to, an elderly population to do a smoke alarm installation drive. We might want to take a look at, the kindergarten, first grade, second grade, because we want to teach the learn not to burn curriculum or whatever that may be. So we're very targeted, and that's important in our community protection efforts. But we also need to realize that there's this huge mass of people out there that needs us as well. And that's where the virtual CRR comes in. So while we're doing this, we're also collecting a ton of data on your community, and that data is yours, okay? There's no upsell or anything like that. Again, I'm just a regular old firefighter, and I came up with something that hopefully would help people. And I'll show you how that data is collected. But I want the fire departments to be the point of contact for their community. I don't want it to be me. Obviously the department that I work for, I want my community reaching out to me. So I do the same thing. So at the bottom of the page of their report, would you like to review home safety, receive additional information? That send a message button goes directly to you. It doesn't go to me. So if somebody has a question like, hey, I've got my elderly mom living with me. She's unable to get out of the bed. What do I do if there's a fire? Those are the type of people that we want to go out physically and talk to. And we want to have the opportunity to be face to face with them and come up with a plan. So with the virtual CR system, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take our community that's huge and shrink it down to a population to where we know who it is that we need to reach out to physically, that we need to physically send resources to, whether that be someone from fire prevention or an engine company or whatever it may be, or another resource for that matter, to be able to get that information to them. Now, this can also be utilized as the platform. If you guys are a department that does a lot of home safety assessments, and hopefully we can start doing those again, this now becomes a platform for your crews to be able to do that. Like I said, I come from the operations section. I know all of the excuses of why the firefighters don't want to go do home safety assessments sometimes. Everything from, I don't know what you want me to tell them. I'm uncomfortable speaking with people. This now takes a lot of those excuses and kind of mutes them down a little bit. So they would walk into a home with an iPad basically, or whatever devices you guys use, just a cellular phone. You're able to access it off of that as well. And they would ask each of those questions to the homeowner or the resident, whichever it may be. As they're going through, it automatically populates that report. So the information that we want them to teach, or you want them to teach the community, is already there for them. The videos are already loaded in one place for them to go through. So it's standardized and it's automatically collecting the data. A lot of us work off of Excel spreadsheets and those types of things to collect data. And this is just an easy way for you to collect that data. So it's all in one place, it's all organized, and then it can be uploaded into a lot of different formats, which I can show you shortly. So this is the actual report that the department receives based on the virtual CR survey. So all of those responses are aggregated into this report, and you receive these reports on a quarterly or an annual basis. So each one of those questions, as you can see, is now broken down. So for this particular area, 93% of people said, yes, we have working smoke alarms in their home. 7% said no. So obviously this 7% are those that we want to reach out to. You can click on the map section. And what that does is that brings the map up of the community, telling you who said yes, who said no. And it gets down to the exact address. Okay, so 812 South Pleasanton said yes that they did. Okay, and you can go all the way down to street level and see the house. Okay, and we provide this for every single one of those questions. The other thing that you can see, go down to a different question. This is that carbon monoxide one. Again, we have the map view. We can see that 52% of the community said yes, 31% said no, and 17 said it was not applicable. We can also go to see the stats. So like we talked about with that map view, we want to break up the community geographically, and they chose to do it by their council districts, okay? So we can see what each one of the wards, Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4, how many said yes, no, and that. So for the example of like a smoke alarm question, if we went back to that question, and let's say Ward 3 was the highest one that had 36% that said, no, we don't have a smoke alarm. And let's say the other districts or the other wards were much lower. Let's say they were around 10% said that they needed a smoke alarm. When we're getting ready to do the smoke alarm drives, we could pull this information up and say, you know what, let's focus on Ward 3. Let's get the council member for Ward 3 involved so that we can really get into the community and make a difference. So these are the types of tools that you have that are really doing a risk assessment for you, or it's part of your risk assessment, which we all know the risk assessment is one of the first things that we need to be doing for our CRR plan. But now we have tangible evidence to be able to look to more tangible evidence, I should say, to be able to look to come up with those plans. So for every single one of those questions that we ask, all of that information is being collected for you. It's put into pie graphs, it's put on the actual map itself. And then, like we talked about, all of this data is yours, okay? So at the bottom, you would simply hit download CSV or download PDF. When you hit download CSV, it automatically goes into a CSV file format for you so that you can give that to your IT folks, to your GIS folks, and whatever you're utilizing for those programs, you now have the ability to put another layer within your maps, okay? So whether you're working with My Sidewalk or any of those other companies, obviously we're an Esri company, so any of the other Esri companies, you can give our data to them and they can input it into their map layers as well, or your GIS folks at your departments, depending on the resources that you may have. So on the back end, that's the type of data that you can expect to be receiving. And again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to shrink our community down to a level that we're able to actually physically service those that are most in need. So some different types of assessments that we set up. Corona Fire Department, California, Southern California, they are right on the edge of Cleveland National Forest. Very, very large target area for wildland fires. We have them on a regular basis, pretty much multiple times every single year. We have houses threatened in these areas. So Corona Fire Department came to me and said, Chief Young said, hey, you know, I'd like you to create something because we want to really get out in the community regarding preparedness for a wildfire. We want the residents to do that. We're starting a new program. We want to get as much data as we can. And we also want to provide them with the ways in which they can take care of themselves. They can harden their own home because we can't do it at the fire department level. Obviously, we have contracts for, you know, the national forest areas and those types of things for weed abatement. But we need the homeowners to participate as well. So this is what they asked me to build for them. Again, it's basically the same exact thing. As a homeowner, I'm going to pick which district I live in. I give you my address if I want to. They did it in English and Spanish because they have a very large Spanish speaking population. But again, the questions they wanted is your home at risk for a wildland fire? They wanted to know the mindset of the people that lived there, if they thought that they were or if they didn't. That way they could educate the people so that if the people don't think that they're in danger, but they really are, then they can follow up with them and let them know. Do you have 2 ways out of your neighborhood if you had to evacuate? They wanted people to think about that. Are you signed up for the first alert program that they have within Corona to let them know if there was an emergency happening? They wanted to ask questions regarding clearances, you know, 50, 100 feet away from their houses. So within 30 feet of your home, do you have trees, bushes, or flammable landscape? We'll say, yes, I do. Is there excessive vegetation within 100 feet? You have balconies, decks, patio covers, fences that will readily burn, wood or vinyl. Other items that will readily burn. What type of building materials do you have? Do you have wood shake roof? Do you have vinyl siding or wood siding? Are your eaves boxed in or are they open? Vents secured. Okay, and then this was the report that they had generated to teach their community. So based on how I answered those questions right now, I've got a lot of red. So we'll open up the safety overview. Some homes are more at risk than others. Okay, the information. So they link directly to the Ready, Set, Go videos now. So as you click on those, that would open up that new video section. So one more way to be able to teach them. Remember the question about if you're signed up for their emergency alert system. This takes them directly to the City of Corona's free emergency notification system. So they're using a virtual CRR to be able to get all of the different avenues or different information avenues that they have out to their public. Okay, those yard and surroundings. This is where they put in the videos regarding defensible space. Okay, regarding how far embers go downwind. Information from University of California regarding balconies, decks, what happens during a wildfire. More information regarding Ready, Set, Go. So a lot of this is links to other places. This is an interview from one of the news stations regarding how quickly a home went up because of embers. Okay. And then they found a very good video regarding venting and the embers keeping it out of the attic, regarding Ready, Set, Go again. So this is just one more example. They chose to do it a little bit different. Typically when I set up these, it's for, you know, a 1-year contract. We want to see over time how people are being influenced. They said, you know what, we want to do a 1-month push. We want to get a lot of people involved, specifically along our wildland front area. And so they did it for 1 month, and this is the information they were to collect. So 56% of the people within there, or 55% of the people within the community didn't feel that they were in wildland risk area. So they could pull that up and see specifically, oops, too far, sorry. So the people along, this is Cleveland National Forest, the people along this area, the ones that are most at risk for wildland fires, and they can see if they need to go do some education within these areas or not. Okay, just as one example to one of those questions. You know, at least 2 ways out. So 90% said yes. So they don't have a large problem with people not having the ability to be able to escape their neighborhoods if they have to in an emergency. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting. Do you have trees, bushes, or flammable landscape within 30 feet of your home? So 65% of those said yes, that they do. So now they know that, you know what, this is one of the things we really need to focus on is we need to go to the homeowners associations, and we can do presentations there. We can talk about how to go about clearing these areas so that they can be safer. So they're utilizing this as a way to be able to identify the larger vulnerabilities within the community so they can really target the information that they want to push out. Kind of a different example is, this is for, I'm creating this as a fire prevention inspection, basically. So in some areas, it is not required for all businesses to have an annual inspection from the fire marshal's office. They can do it based on risk, and it can be done every other year, every 3 years, something along those lines. So utilizing a virtual CRR to be able to do that. So this would go out to the business community. So on the off years that we are not sending an inspector or a crew out to do an inspection physically, we still want to have some type of access to the business community. And this is much more of a teaching tool rather than a regulatory tool. So companies like iRoll do an excellent job with fire prevention inspections, doing them virtually. Okay, they're collecting a lot of data that's very specific, and it's regulatory driven. This is much more information driven. So on those off years, this would be when it would go out. So as a business owner, I would pick which color geographically I fit into. I would put the name of my business, okay, my emergency contact information so that the fire department can keep up on the emergency contact information if there was any changes over the year. I can tell them what type of a building that I'm in. Okay, now obviously this one's under construction, so we don't have pictures and videos and those types of things, but whatever questions, take the top 10 things that you find on your personal business inspections, and that's what you would create your virtual CRR for businesses around. So as an example, are your exits free of obstacles, left unlocked during business hours? Are exit signs posted and illuminated? Have your fire extinguishers been professionally inspected and serviced within the last 12 months? Whatever questions you want. And then at the end, it's going to teach that information to the business community, giving them the why behind all of these types of things. So that same type of a thing would open up, talking about exits, the why behind exits. Put any type of a video that you want there. If you wanted to do a personal video series for each one of these, explaining to your business community what it is that you're looking for and why, with examples of good and bad examples, we could absolutely do something along those lines, okay? And again, on the backside, you're gonna have all of that data for you to go to as well. And you have the ability to update your records for emergency contacts on those off years that you're not physically going out and doing that type of an assessment or inspection. A little bit different thing that we do, we can also do sample customer satisfaction surveys. A lot of people, especially on the those that deliver EMS service, they're looking to see, how the dispatch went, how the crew performed professionally, those types of things. So here's an example of a customer satisfaction survey. 911 dispatcher was attentive. They can pick poor, fair, good, excellent, whatever they want. Fire department responded quickly. Whatever questions you want to ask here, they can place additional comments. They have the ability to put their name and address if they want to. That way you can reach back to them if that's what they're looking for. And this would be the type of report that they get, that you would get back, excuse me, letting you know how many people have done the survey and how they answered each one of those. These are the possible, obviously this is a test version, so test, very professional. I appreciate how you treated my mother when my dad died, whatever it may be, so that you can reach out to them after the call and you can see how you're doing. It gets very expensive. I know we always used to do this via postcards. We would mail them out and have them mail them back to us. Unfortunately, we didn't get a whole lot of those back sometimes. And that became very expensive as well when you're talking a population, 350,000 people, whatever it may be, running 40,000 calls a year. When you do 40,000 times, 28 cents or whatever it is now for a postcard, that can get very expensive. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is some of the other free benefits that I give to this community risk reduction community that I hope are of benefit. The first one is I do a monthly newsletter. Okay, it's a CRR monthly newsletter. This is an example. I know many of you guys are already signed up for it, but just in case you're not, this is from last month. I thought Joe Power's article that he wrote was one of the best I've ever seen on community risk reduction. Joe obviously is one of the rock stars within the community risk reduction community. Glad to call him a friend. So anyways, that was kind of the main article for the month. And then what I do is throughout the month, I try to collect as many articles, news events, or videos, whatever it may be, regarding community risk reduction, and put them in one place, because none of us have the time to go through and watch everything and see everything that comes across all the different news feeds that we have. So I try to put it all into one place so that you can look at it and see, oh, you know what, I wanted to learn more about getting vaccines out to homebound. And it's all in one place so that you guys can go through, click on each one of these. And what that does is it opens it up in the actual news or article online to hopefully save you guys some time. Also, talk about any CRR training events and events that are coming up. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of them right now because of COVID. And please, if you guys have any articles, send them to me and I'll make sure that they get included in here as well. On my website, where you would sign up for that, so virtualcrr.com, right here is the free monthly newsletter. Please go there. Here's all the old ones that you can click on. And at the very bottom of the page, the #1 question that comes up, you have the price sheet as well. So this is the price for the services that I just talked about. It's based on population. So this is the section for virtual CRR pricing structure. Under 50,000 people, for what I just showed you, you're looking at about $3,100 for an English version. If you want into multiple languages, basically each language would be an additional 50% on top of that. The only additional fees would be if you wanted to change a question, which I highly do not suggest during that 1 year period. During that 1 year period, you're really looking to collect statistical data, over those 10 or so questions that you ask. You don't want to be changing those questions because then you're not going to be collecting data over the full year. So if you really had a burning desire to change them, we can. I highly suggest that you don't. Obviously, there are discounts for multiple surveys, 20% off for your first one, 30 your second, and 40 your third. And then this is that customer satisfaction survey pricing schedule for a population under 50,000. That'd be $887 a year. So that is kind of it in a nutshell. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Sylvia, I'll turn it back to you for a little bit. See what questions we've got.
All right. Now, Janae Five had a question, was asking about examples of home safety survey. So maybe Janae can jump in and ask specifically what she was asking for, because I know you went over some stuff there. And that was kind of early on in your presentation. So if Janae, if you're
Right.
still there, jump on and let us know there. Here she is. Nope. Is that the right Jenny? Different Jenny. And we did direct her to the to Vision 2020 in their home safety survey there. So she might have got what she needed
Okay.
from that. Ed, did you have any questions off the Facebook Live feed?
Stand by. Let me take a look there. Nope, nothing there.
All right. I tell you what, one of the things it's so neat to see that there's something that we can use that's not extremely expensive. The prices for, I mean, I could see myself going to my chief and saying, hey, this is something I think would be really good. It's not so crazy that my chiefs would just laugh at me.
Right. And that was actually one of the things that was important to me was I work for a department that is very well funded. Okay. But the vast majority of departments within the country aren't, and the vast majority of them are volunteer as well. So I wanted to come up with something that, somebody could do a pancake breakfast for, and would be able to pay when COVID's over for that service for the year. You know what I mean? Because especially in the rural communities, that makes it even harder for those crews to be able to get out into the population, especially when you're dealing with a volunteer population. It's hard enough to get them to get their training hours, let alone to be able to go visit the homes as well. So that was one of the things when I was creating this. I created a different version, like I talked about on the federal side, that is much more specific and gets into a lot of ratios. And this one I wanted to be very simple, very easy to understand, and very accessible for people at a price that they would be able to really, swallow.
Right. And I think too, it also makes it, I love all the stuff that you have for the data afterwards that, that you can take and show to your stakeholders and say, look, here's what we're doing. Makes it something that's very visual for them to see and easy to understand, like you said.
Absolutely.
Hey, Brent, we did have one question here.
Okay.
We use a Google form for our survey. What program did you use to build the survey in these pieces?
So on the back end, everything is done in WordPress. When it's translated over into that CSV document, you would be able to put it into whatever form you want, because that automatically, for those that aren't familiar with CSV format, it's basically Excel. And that is the format that they use for any of the GIS systems to be able to upload into, whether it be an Esri system or anybody else. So I build it, and it's obviously proprietary, but it's built on a WordPress platform.
Okay, and one other question, which is always the question that it always gets asked: will this be available as a recording afterwards? The answer to that is yes, it will be on the Facebook page. It's being live streamed there now, and it will stay up there as a recording. So if you want to share with anybody else, it'll be available there.
Perfect. Hey, Ed,
Okay.
is Will Brochus still on?
Stand by.
Him as a participant?
While you're,
I just wanted to-
while you're,
He is indeed.
Are we able
while you're
to let
looking
him
for,
introduce himself a little bit?
Hey,
There we go.
Brody.
hey, how's it going?
Great.
So
I just thought you
How are
might
you
take a
doing?
minute to introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about your super secret endeavor that you're working on with smoke alarms. Give a sneak peek.
So, Will Brochus with Columbia Richland Fire Department out of Columbia, South Carolina. Kind of on the spot now. Let's see. I'll start off by saying my risk reduction background is I worked in risk reduction for years in Greenville, South Carolina. Attended many classes at the National Fire Academy, where I had the honor to meet Sylvia, and we became alumni buddies, and we've stayed in touch. And then through conferences and people basically idea sharing is how I found Brent. And I fell in love with the program. It makes sense And the city I'm in now, I went from a system like Brent, where we had all the money in the world, we were very well funded, to a larger department that is the capital city. So with that comes less tax income because everything here is owned by a government agency. So less taxes, less funding. So we have to be a little bit more creative, and Brent's program falls right into a price point that we can work with. And then so Brent and I spoke a little bit more, and then had breakfast one day at the Vision 2020 conference. And he says, "Hey, would you like to come on board on a team?" And I said, "Yeah." And then COVID hit. We had grand ideas about tracking smoke alarms. My biggest mission with smoke alarms has always been the fact that when we first started, we were just installing them in homes, which is great, right? They're a great tool. However, no one could ever tell me where they installed them. And that just gave me heartburn, was that fact that, we're installing a 10-year device, but in 10 years, we have no idea where they are. And then we have to start the process all over again. And so I started working with GIS, and in Greenville, we start tracking every home and basically asking a lot of the questions that Brent does, but we couldn't put it all together in one package. And so when Brent and I had breakfast and we talked, I'm like, "Hey, you're doing everything we're trying to figure out." So that would be my message to most. While you can do some of this stuff in-house, and you can, if you have the tools, it will bog you down a little bit. So you have a tool out there. It's already developed, it's already created, and it is simple and cost effective. And I promise your GIS department would love you if you bring it to them. Or if you don't have a GIS department, it's just a phenomenal tool. So I fell in love from the very beginning, and I'm an avid supporter. So that's who I am. Yeah, that's it.
So as far as contact information for us, you can reach out to myself at brentf@virtualcr.com, or to Will at willb@virtualcr.com. And we'd be happy to talk with you guys, whatever you guys need. We're still working firefighters and making things happen, and trying our best. So thank you.
Am I still unmuted?
Nope, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Wait. Here's a small disclaimer. I am not soliciting anything. I'm on a clock for my employer. So
I didn't know that. Sorry, my bad.
No. So I am not. I'm a helper today. So, but yeah, we look forward to helping anybody that we can, whether you want to go with the program or you just simply want advice. Sylvia has built a wonderful platform with the help of others on social media, and it's a network. And if you have questions, we don't charge. Most of us have found this stuff out through helping each other and asking questions ourselves. So whether you like the software, like the program, if you have any CRR questions, just hit us up and let's brainstorm together and figure out these problems. We all have the same problems, so we can all find solutions together. So that's it. And nice mustache,
Absolutely.
Brent. I'm jealous.
Thank you. That's a new addition.
I'm going back on mute.
Perfect. Thanks, Will.
Hey, Brian,
Thanks,
we have
Brody.
a couple of questions here.
Okay.
One is, can ATL funds be used to purchase this? And I'm not sure what
Yes.
ATL funds are.
I'm assuming that's some type of a grant funding. So the Corona Fire Department, they utilized an Edison version, which is the local utility company, to be able to pay for their version. So, I mean, as long as it falls within the parameters of your department's purchasing, there would be no problem as far as grant funding to be utilized. And if I misunderstood that question, let me know. They can do a follow-up.
And the other one is, oh boy, this is a pretty global one. Brent, where do you think CRR is headed as a whole?
I think CRR is engulfing the fire service. If any of you guys, I obviously write a lot of articles as well, that you can all find on the website. To me, community risk reduction is the fire service, and it always has been. We're just now realizing it though. We have in the past not done a good job looking very globally at the types of services that we give to our community. And I really look at the fire department or community risk reduction in general as that point of source for the community to go to for pretty much everything that they need. Not that we're going to be providing it, but we can be that key to be able to unlock doors for them to get the things that they need. Whether that be housing, whether that be homelessness issues, whether that be drug addiction issues. Again, we're not the ones that are going to be doing all of these things, but we have direct impact on those on a daily basis. The calls that we go on homeless calls, we go on drug calls, we go on calls with the police department. We go on calls regarding flooding. So none of those things are directly, other than the medical side, related to the fire service, but we can be that gatekeeper to be able to get the people the services that they need. So really, that's where I see globally community risk reduction going, is moving away from just an operations-based fire service to a much more globally based fire service, where we're looking at things other than just how are we going to put the fire out in X amount of time with these X amount of people, to how do we integrate ourselves into the community so that we become that keystone or capstone or whatever you want to call it to the community, that umbrella, to be able to get them the services that they need, some of which we provide, most of which we give them and point them in the right direction of other places.
Great point. Great point. I think that's all the questions. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to jump in on that Facebook Live video, and Brent can come back there and check those later on. You can probably tag him there too, so he'll make sure to see it.
Please.
Does anybody else have any other questions before we jump off of here?
All right.
No. Ed, thank you so much as always for taking care of the technical side of this. You're awesome. You know, I think you're awesome. Not just when you do your video stuff. And Brent, thank you so much for sharing this. It's a great tool for us to be able to use in our communities. And I agree with Brody. It's at a price point that a lot of us can do that. Some fundraising and get done. So now I got another
Perfect.
on my list I need to do.
Perfect. Well, I just want to thank you guys for this opportunity. This community is great. I love being involved in it. You know, from the operations side of it, I really want to get operations and the life safety side talking a little bit more. And that's the direction that I take with a lot of the articles, is I aim community risk reduction at operations so that they can see that they're part of it. And that's kind of the bridge that I want to gap. So thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Anybody can reach out to me. Don't reach out to Will, I guess. Sorry, Will, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. So Brent F at virtualcr.com. Virtualcr.com is the website. And thank you guys again very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Glad to do it. Take care, everybody.
All right. You
Okay,
too.
bye-bye.
Bye.